What really happens after we take our final breath? Does the self simply dissolve into the void, or does it pass through mysterious gateways beyond human comprehension? Welcome, soul traveler, to the mystery of all mysteries. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most profound and enigmatic texts in Tibetan Buddhism, the Bardo Thödol, more widely known in the West as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Imagine a guide that stays with you during the most mysterious and transformative moments of your existence. That's the essence of the Bardo Thödol. And no, it's not just a simple manual on dying. It's a map, a spiritual guide to what unfolds just after death. Get ready, because we're about to journey through this portal together, unpack its messages, and maybe, just maybe, come a little closer to understanding what it truly means to exist. The Bardo Thödol was created by Padmasambhava, a figure both legendary and nearly mythical within Tibetan Buddhism. Born in India, he is widely revered as the one who brought Buddhism to Tibet during the 8th century. In Tibetan tradition, he's honored as Guru Rinpoche, which means precious master. But Padmasambhava wasn't just a monk. He was a deeply realized spiritual master, a yogi who had mastered mystical techniques and esoteric teachings. The Bardo Thödol was born from his desire to guide not only the living, but also the dead, offering them a path toward liberation, even after their final breath. From a young age, Padmasambhava displayed extraordinary mystical abilities. He was recognized as a Mahasiddha, a realized being who had attained the highest levels of spiritual realization, developing siddhis, or spiritual powers, that were considered miraculous. He was invited to Tibet by King Trisongdetsen, who wanted to expand Buddhism and strengthen the country's spiritual foundations, uniting the people under a single belief system. At the time, Tibet was steeped in intense shamanic practices and animistic beliefs deeply rooted in the indigenous spiritual tradition known as Bon. This diverse and at times chaotic spiritual atmosphere posed real challenges to the spread of Buddhism. When Padmasambhava arrived in Tibet, he faced resistance from various cultural and spiritual forces. The local deities and spirits of the Bon tradition actively resisted Buddhism. Padmasambhava, using his knowledge of tantric rituals and magical practices, worked to subdue these spirits. His integration of Bon deities and practices into Tibetan Buddhism was crucial in establishing a lasting spiritual foundation. In doing so, Padmasambhava founded Tibet's first Buddhist monastery, Sami Monastery, and began transmitting profound teachings about the mind, reality, and the endless cycle of existence known as samsara. In Tibetan Buddhism, there is the understanding that death is not an end, but a transitional state, a moment that opens up the possibility for spiritual liberation. Padmasambhava realized that, at the moment of death, the mind enters a unique state. Freed from the distractions of the physical world, it becomes more receptive to ultimate truth. He saw this as a rare and precious opportunity for liberation, but he also knew that most people, when they die, become lost in illusions and fears, barriers that keep them from awakening to this possibility. His mission was to create a guide that could be read aloud by those accompanying the dying or studied during life, so that The mind would be prepared to navigate the Bardos, the transitional states after death. At its core, he wanted to ease suffering and open the door to enlightenment, even when everything felt uncertain and dissolved. That compassion is the foundation of the Bardo Thödol. He also understood that many people might not reach enlightenment during their lifetime, but he saw death as one final chance, and so he gave instructions to practitioners and disciples on how to recognize the clear light, the pure, radiant manifestation of the mind at the moment of their passing. The Bardo Thödol guides us through three main states, or Bardos, that every soul is said to travel through. The Chikhai Bardo, the moment of death. In the Chikhai Bardo, the soul experiences the moment of death itself, a point of transition where the physical body dissolves and consciousness is released from its material limitations. Once the dissolution is complete, the soul finds itself before the primordial clear light, described in the Bardo Thödol as a dazzling, pure, and immense radiance. The clear light is the manifestation of the absolute nature of the mind, a state of pure, unconditional awareness, where there is no duality, no fear, no attachment. Some know it as the higher self, others call it the solar mind. There are many names for this state of totality and infinite peace. For the spiritual practitioner, the Chikhai Bardo offers the possibility of final liberation. If the soul is able to recognize the clear light as its own true essence, it instantly attains liberation, nirvana, and no longer needs to pass through the later Bardos. It is a complete, direct experience of truth, where the mind sees itself without filters or distortions. In that moment, all conditioning, all karma, and all identity dissolve. But for those who are unprepared, the intensity of the clear light can be terrifying. The mind, instead of recognizing the light as its nature, might interpret it as a threat, a result of fear or lingering attachment to the familiar. In that case, the soul turns away, missing the opportunity for liberation, and moves into the next Bardos, where it encounters increasingly distorted and limiting visions, shaped by its karmic tendencies. Chönyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions. Carl Gustav Jung once said that gods and demons are projections of the unconscious, powerful and impossible to escape until we understand them as parts of ourselves. In the Chönyid Bardo, the soul exists in a realm beyond the body, where all physical boundaries have dissolved. Here it begins to experience projections of its own mind, visions that may appear as heavenly beings or disturbing apparitions. This Bardo exposes the very nature of the mind as all that has been repressed, longed for, or feared rises to the surface. The visions in the Chönyid Bardo are shaped by the soul's emotional and karmic imprints, gathered over countless lifetimes. These visions come in two main forms, peaceful and wrathful. First, the soul is met by peaceful deities, representing enlightened, benevolent states of consciousness. They may appear as Buddhas, bodhisattvas, or radiant beings of light, emanating the virtues the soul cultivated over time. Their presence is serene and reassuring. But if the mind is not prepared, even these peaceful visions can feel overwhelming or confusing. the soul may retreat in doubt, unable to grasp the truth of what it's experiencing. Then come the wrathful visions. If the soul fails to recognize the essential peaceful nature of the first visions, it is gradually confronted by more intense figures, the wrathful deities. These are manifestations of anger, fear, and suppressed desires, taking on monstrous and fearsome forms. They are not outside entities. They are expressions of the soul's own mind, reflections of the passions and attachments still binding it to suffering. In the Chönyid Bardo, the mind is no longer restrained by the body. It enters a state of pure psychic expression where everything is intensified. The visions resemble dreams, but unlike ordinary dreams, they are incredibly vivid and clear. Now that the body no longer filters perception, the mind experiences its own energies directly. All that was hidden, buried, or unresolved rises up with tremendous force. Each vision is a chance to learn and evolve. Each one is an aspect of the self that must be integrated or transcended. If the soul can stay aware, it may realize that all visions, whether beautiful or terrifying, are simply mind-made. And when this is understood, fear fades, and liberation becomes possible. The Bardo Thödol advises the soul to focus on the clear light, the mind's pure original essence, described as a vast, luminous presence. Recognizing the clear light is the key to total liberation, because it is the true nature of all beings. It is the sun behind the clouds of illusion, the light that remains unchanged, no matter what visions arise. If the soul can see through the illusions, it may attain enlightenment and transcend the cycle of rebirth. But this recognition is not easy. For most people, the visions are so vivid, so personal, that it's nearly impossible to look beyond them. That's why the Bardo Thödol encourages spiritual training during life, so that the mind learns to detach from illusion and to understand its own nature. With practice, even when facing the overwhelming visions of the Chönyid Bardo, the practitioner can stay focused on the clear light and find peace. Fear and attachment are the greatest obstacles to liberation. The wrathful deities in particular can trigger deep fear because they reflect the untamed, unconscious aspects of our psyche. The soul might try to run away from these visions, or, on the other hand, cling to the peaceful ones. But both reactions create attachment. This keeps the soul locked in the cycle of samsara. To break free, the soul must recognize all visions as illusions, projections of the mind, empty of any lasting reality. In Tibetan Buddhism, this is the understanding of shunyata, emptiness. A mind that recalls emptiness during the Chönyid Bardo can witness all visions without clinging or fear, recognizing them as fleeting expressions of its own nature. So the experience of the Chönyid Bardo is not punishment nor meaningless suffering. It is a stage of revelation where the soul comes face to face with the mirror of its own mind. It is a test, one that separates those ready for liberation from those who still need to be reborn in order to continue their learning. The Sidpa Bardo, Rebirth. In the Sidpa Bardo, the final stage, the soul reaches a critical point, the choice of its next body, a decision shaped by the total energy of all actions, thoughts, and intentions. This energy is what we call karma. It's as though the entire previous journey has led to this very moment, where everything inside us determines where we go next. Entering this bardo, the soul has already undergone the dissolution of the body in the Chikhai Bardo and faced its own mind's projections in the Chönyid Bardo. Now it finds itself in a denser psychic realm where the desire for rebirth becomes stronger, fueled by fears and attachments that have not yet been transcended. According to Tibetan Buddhism, it's this desire that drives the soul to seek a new body, a new existence. In the Sidpa Bardo, karmic tendencies act like hidden marks left by past lives. These marks act as invisible forces, pulling the soul towards circumstances that mirror its inner state. If the soul carries a great deal of fear, it may be drawn to a life where fear becomes the central lesson. Likewise, intense desires or unresolved emotions shape the soul's next incarnation. During this stage, the soul encounters a series of visions linked to the rebirth process. Among them are images of couples in union, a symbolic representation of the creation of new life. At this point, the soul feels called to choose a new body, though the choice is unconscious, driven by emotional energy and karmic momentum. The Bardo Thödol advises that, upon seeing these visions, the soul should remain detached and clear-minded. Only with this clarity can it avoid being pulled blindly into an unwanted rebirth. For those who can maintain their awareness, the Sidpa Bardo offers one last chance for transcendence. There is still the possibility to turn away from rebirth and instead choose the path of liberation. That is the true aim of the spiritual seeker, not to be reborn out of illusion, but to see all final visions as projections, temporary, insubstantial, and ultimately empty. As the Sidpa Bardo unfolds, the soul experiences a powerful pull toward form. It's as if a storm of psychic energy drives it toward embodiment. This urge to exist, to be, becomes almost irresistible. And yet the next body is not consciously chosen. It arises through a deep, instinctual current, shaped by the mind state. In this way, the body the soul enters is a reflection of what its consciousness still needs to understand or resolve. Tibetan Buddhism teaches that every rebirth is an opportunity for growth. The body we take reflects both our karma and our spiritual development. But most souls don't realize this. Many fall into lives of confusion and hardship, repeating cycles of suffering. Yet those who are able to see beyond the illusion may dissolve into the clear light, the mind's true nature. According to the Bardo Thödol, preparation for this final stage begins long before death. By examining our desires and fears while alive, we become more conscious of the forces that shape our destiny. Spiritual practices, like meditation and contemplation of death, help strengthen detachment. This prepares the mind to remain steady in the Sidpa Bardo, even when faced with dramatic visions and powerful urges. It was a profound truth that life and death are not opposites, they are deeply connected. Rebirth is not random. It is simply the continuation of our own patterns, choices, and perceptions. By freeing ourselves from attachment, we free ourselves from the cycle and reach enlightenment. This is the state beyond rebirth, where identity dissolves and only truth remains. The Bardo Thödol is not just a religious scripture or a collection of mystical ideas. It is a tool for self-discovery, a mirror for the soul, and a map of the journey beyond life. It teaches us that death is both an ending and a new beginning. As Ram Dass once said, "When you die, there's only one question that matters. How much did you love?" In this light, the Tibetan Book of the Dead invites us to reflect deeply on our own lives. Are we ready for that final journey? Are we prepared to let go of all we think we are? Perhaps by contemplating these teachings, we can learn not only to face death, but to truly live. If this journey into the unknown resonated with you, share this video and subscribe to the channel. Tell us in the comments what fascinates you most about life after death. Because the path of self-knowledge is long, and together we can explore the deepest mysteries of existence. Pausa. Thank you for watching.